Hey, are you ready? Are you ready? Hey, this is Tim Laskus, and you're listening to the Tim Laskus Show, episode 16. And today's guest is Jen Gilchrist. And I have to say, Jen is a super cool person. She loves to swim with the dolphins. She's got an awesome story of how she goes to Hawaii every year and swimming with the dolphins. But anyway, besides that, she went from a struggling mom to a six-figure business owner. And she makes money doing what she loves. How many of us can say that? Huh? I know some of you out there are like, yeah, I want that. Well, she's doing it right now. And she's a speaker and she's a success mentor. And she's just doing her thing. And she brings awesome value and tips to the show. So be sure to tune in and enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests. Entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tim Laskus Show. Today, I have Jen Gilchrist as my guest today, and I got that right. I can't believe it. Jen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you were telling me just a minute ago that your favorite pastime is swimming with great white sharks. Is that true?
No, in fact, I only got in the water. My favorite thing is swimming with the wild dolphins in Kona, Hawaii. And honestly, when I saw that trip for the first time available, I was so excited and then panicked about the sharks and thought, I don't think I could ever do it. So I was happy to find out that the sharks do not go near the dolphins.
Yeah, I heard the dolphins can protect you. They're very territorial, and I don't know if that's
Yes.
the case, but I think that's a good thing to have in mind when you're out there in the open water with the dolphins, that they've got your back.
They do. And it's amazing when you're out in the wild with them because literally sometimes on average, at least 100 dolphins in one of the pods, but there's been times where there's been a couple of pods merging together and you're surrounded with 300 or even 400 dolphins, which was amazing. It's amazing.
Wow, that is incredible. Now, can you hear them making noises? Do they do that chatter
They
noise, or
do.
what,
It's
what do they
so
do?
cute. Yeah, they definitely have a little sound to them. You can start to hear them just a little ee ee ee. They have the little sounds where they're playful, and it's really cool because you can see the difference. They swim in little tiny family pods. So sometimes you'll see like the mama and the baby, nursing and just hanging out. You can tell the older ones who are kind of more mellow, and then there's like the teenage boys, is how I would imagine it, who are like roughhousing and swimming around and playing this leaf tag game that they do. And so it's just a lot of fun to be a
Oh,
part of, and they'll interact with you as well, which is
mhm.
amazing.
Now, do you ever kind of lock? I've seen pictures of their eyes, and it's kind of like I don't know, it's magical. It seems like when you just get that eye contact with one. I'm sure you've had that experience where they kind of look at you right in the eye and you really connect.
Yes, oh for sure. Sometimes they just come in and they'll hang with you for a while. Their normal speed is pretty. You're kicking pretty good to keep up with their meandering, and so sometimes they'll kind of purposely slow down and kind of switch back so that they can stay right with you, which is really amazing to have that connection. And another thing that's really cool that they do is this sonar healing. So there's been a couple of occasions where they'll almost kind of corral you, like call you out to the side, so you stop your normal swim and they use their sonar and they click. It sounds like a bike chain. It's like a different sound. Dit, 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 and they scan your body. Apparently, they have amazing skills with how they can see. It's like they're reflecting their energy off of you, and they can actually see when things are out of alignment. They even have had people, I guess, for cancer patients and different things. Of course, that's more in captivity for science, but it's amazing what they've learned that they can do with their sonar. It's a cool
Wow.
experience.
Man, we could have a whole show just talking about dolphins. Maybe we'll have to have you back on one day. We'll do that.
I would love that. I have lots of stories.
Yeah, well, that is great. Well, let's shift a little bit, and why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally, and what are you currently working on?
Oh, Well, currently I am working with spiritual and heart-centered entrepreneurs, or even those people who have a calling in their heart, who know that they're ready to have a career switch and they really want to make a difference on the planet. They want to do something that makes the world a better place, that they feel this calling or this nudging. And I work with them to help them to get clear and create businesses that are in alignment with their unique soul gift and messages so that they can make the impact and income that I know their hearts desire.
Now, you have a message which I thought was really cool. I saw it on your website. It says, create your business from the inside out. Can you explain a little more about that?
Yes. What I have found is my first business, I've been self employed for a long time. My first business, I created what I would call success by society's standards. I liked my job. I made good money. I created a figure business actually. But at the end of the day, I was extremely burnt out and stressed out. And so I think to me, when I've switched into this new line of work, it was because I really wanted to create a business that felt good to me. And I realized that I had to find alignment with what was really my passion. What is my desire? What is my bliss? And when I can get connected to that and help people connect to their bliss and their passion, then they can create businesses on a foundation that supports and fuels what they love, if that makes sense, as opposed to just having a job that's making money and doing what they should do. They're actually creating a lifestyle with their business that supports them as well.
Awesome. And what is kind of the typical process or length of time that you work with a client? I mean, I know everybody differs, but do you kind of have an average number of sessions where it really, before people start to begin to kind of take off and really get it?
Yeah, I like to start with at least 6 months. I think it starts with about 6 months. I'm currently moving into including group coaching, which I find is awesome as well. But my one-on-one mentorship starts at one-on-ones twice a month for about an hour, and I do a combination. I'm an intuitive business coach, so I call myself a soul alignment and success mentor, and that's because we really start in the beginning with taking an honest assessment of where they're at in their life and business, and what's working, what's not working. And I work with them to really get clear on what those things are and what do they actually want instead. And I think that that's an important piece because a lot of the people I'm working with are either newer into the business and they've tried to pick a niche that they think is going to work, or they just don't have a clue how to actually get the foundation set up. And so I really help them align with their inner soul's calling. And I also do some VIP work. So there's some VIP days in there where I do some Akashic Records reading. And so I usually start very early on with a soul gift alignment, and Akashic Records reading, because that right there tells you a lot about who you are as a soul. And when you can marry that with tangible, practical, actionable business platform, you have an extremely powerful business that there's no way you cannot be manifesting money and joy and freedom and all the things that you desire when you actually are in alignment with who you are, and then in place with also having those, of course, tangible business strategies that are necessary.
Right. Now, I've practiced as a psychologist for a number of years, and I've had clients over time, different periods of time, that would tell me, Tim, this is a bunch of crap. This psychology stuff. And then I said, just give it a try. After a while, number of sessions, they came to, and many of them would come back and say, wow, this is powerful. I wish I would have done this earlier. Have you ever had any client that maybe was kind of didn't come to you maybe on their own? They were kind of encouraged by someone, and they said, Jen, this is a bunch of crap. What the hell are you talking about? And then you were able to change their mind. Do you have any stories like that?
Well, I have people that come to me. It's funny because sometimes I haven't had much of that actually. Fortunately, I've seemed to be in a good alignment with the people that come my way. But I think that they sometimes think they're coming to me for one thing and get something completely different, if that makes sense. So they might come with this idea that they want X, Y, or Z, and then at the end of the day, they've completely opened up to a whole nother level of themselves that they didn't even know was there. I really think a lot of it that we work in the beginning is mindset and the programming that we have as a society or from your family around around money or around work ethics or things like this that actually kind of get in the way of us really creating what we want to create, whether it's in purpose or in life, or in your business or in life, I should say.
For sure. People come with all sorts of defense mechanisms that they've been using for a long time, and you almost have to peel away the layers before you can actually get to the real core of what's going on. And sometimes it can be difficult. But it sounds like you're doing great stuff with the clients that you're working with. And you've been doing this for a while. What tips do you have for the listeners out there who are entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs waiting to jump into the game? What's been helpful for you along the way?
Well, I think one thing that's really helpful and has also helped me the most was the ability to really move through the fears that I might have, like move through my fears and being willing to step through the comfort zone. Because I believe that what you're wanting, your ideal life is on the other side of some fears or comfort zone stretching that has to happen. And really invest in yourself in getting the support that you need, whether that is taking a business program. Like I had, learning for online marketing, that's a steep learning curve that I knew nothing about from my previous business. It was nothing to do with my previous business. So I had to learn a lot around how to even just support a business online. And for me, an example would be that I hired a virtual assistant from the very beginning before I even made a single penny because I knew, it was a scary jump because here I got to pay somebody and I'm not making money, I'm spending money still. Yet I knew that I needed somebody to support me in the technical pieces that A, I didn't know how to do, and B, I didn't enjoy doing. Right? I wanted to be able to spend time creating that content and in my creativity and things that I was actually good at. And it just made a lot of sense for me to actually invest that way. And it was quite a few months that I paid her pretty good amount to be solid support for me as I built the foundation of my business. And so whatever it is for you, just knowing that, having the proper supports and trainings are going to come in sometimes, and you might feel like, I don't know if I can spend the money, but for me, it's always paid off triple time.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of starting out with that of getting out of your comfort zone, and that is very, very powerful. I can't say that enough to people. Is when you get out of your comfort zone, it forces you to be able to experience something new, and it forces change within your life. Me getting into podcasting, I didn't know what the heck I'm still don't know what I'm doing, but I do it. I push the boundaries, and it helps you to grow as a person, and so that is so important. And then you talked about a virtual assistant. Have you ever used the site Upwork to hire anyone for your whatever kind of things that you need to get done?
No, I haven't heard of that one actually. I have not.
Yeah, I've used that a couple of times for um, pieces to build my website, or for podcast editing, or even for some YouTube editing. Yeah, it's kind of a neat site. They handle all the payments and everything.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So you were telling me before we started recording about this kind of long journey you've had as an entrepreneur. So kind of take us back to, when was that moment when you actually took that step to become an entrepreneur?
Well, it goes all the way back to high school. Little did I know. I went to high school ROP. I thought, well, this will be fun to go to cosmetology school. And I had a lot of extra elective credits open. And so my junior year in high school, halfway through, I began doing cosmetology school. And little did I know that just out of graduation, I had my daughter and became a single mother at the age of 20 years old. And so I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I'm like, well, I'm really grateful I have this knowledge about how to do hair. So I got my license and very quickly actually was able to get hired in one of the top salons in our city and build a very successful six-figure business doing hair and also specializing in hair and makeup on location weddings. So that was when it started for me.
Wow. So that was how long ago was that?
Well, I'm 43, so that was, I would say, about 20 years.
Yeah. So you've
A
been
long while.
doing this for quite a while, and you've stuck with it, but it always hasn't been kind of smooth sailing for you, has it?
No, I think it definitely, in the beginning, especially of that business, it took a while to build a solid income and feel good with that. And I think that by society's standards, I created a very successful business. On the outside, everything looked great. I was able to buy my own home by the age of 30. I created a good income, doing it all, do it all mom, taking her to soccer practice and everything. But I really, on the inside, felt like life was just kind of taking me for a ride. I was starting to get extremely overwhelmed on this hamster wheel of to-do lists, until, pretty much my only form of stress relief was food, or let's see, mostly actually wine and chocolate, I would say, is kind
Oh,
of
okay.
my go-to. You get off of work, it's like, oh
Sure.
my gosh, where's a glass of wine? It's like that's how I was managing my stress. And it's like, obviously, that cannot work forever. So I kind of hit my rock bottom. I had a car accident where I ended up rolling my car a couple of times, and
Oh,
yeah, ended up in a ditch. And when I got out of that car accident, I really, I was really where I had a big wake up call. I realized that, you know, being frazzled and being overwhelmed and, just having a glass of wine every night to succumb the stress was just not going to work for me anymore. And I had to find a different way to do life.
hmm.
And so from that moment on, I prayed and had a very vivid dream with my dear grandfather who came to me and really reminded me of, that there's more to me than just this body, and that there's this whole realm of spiritual support. There's God, angels, universe, whatever that system is for you. And at that moment in my life, I really hadn't recognized that too much. And so when I woke up, I just had this overwhelming sense of peace and hope. I didn't have all the answers, but I felt a peace and hope wash over me that I'd never felt before. And one moment at a time, or very quickly actually, I had my intuition popped open, and I started off on my own personal path of just personal development and learning about how to take responsibility for what you're creating, and really taking ownership of my life in an entirely different way. And then from there, it led me to really having this passion and burning desire to want to help other people who are, living lives and stuck in jobs that doesn't fuel their soul at all, really step into knowing that they're powerful and that they can truly create the lives that they desire, and really have a fulfilling life and business that not only serves their income but also fuels their heart.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a life-changing moment. And I'm a
It
firm
was.
believer, regardless of what the event is in our lives, that there's a reason that these happen. There's a life lesson, and it sounds like there was a major shift. And I'm sure you wouldn't want to go back and have that car accident again, as scary as that was. But it really kind of transformed you, and it helped you to make the shift into a different space. And so that must have been very, very powerful. But you having that drive early on, especially being a woman, and who was it when you were growing up that kind of helped you to form that identity of being, a strong woman who can go out and make money and do for herself? Who was it that you kind of recall that kind of helped guide and shape you?
It's interesting. My family wasn't really entrepreneurs. My grandfather was in real estate, but for the most part, I would say in terms of female role models, it was my grandmother had this unwavering sense of belief in me. I think, she wasn't necessarily an entrepreneur, but she definitely instilled in me that I could do anything, and that she believed in me. And I think that love and that strength and that guidance and support to just really go after that which I wanted helped me have the courage to believe in myself and take the steps. And honestly, I feel like I tripped into entrepreneurship. And now that I look back at it, there's no other way it could be. Like, I am not a computer person. I'm not one to just sit inside four walls at a computer. Definitely not an 8 to 5 person. That would just make me crazy. I'm not a morning person. So I kind of joke and say I think it's the fact that I can book my own schedule that kept me driving forward
Yeah.
in my business. But I think it was really just having really supportive family who believed in me, because I really didn't have any entrepreneurial role models. I think, my grandfather passed away when I was 10 years old, so I didn't really have that sense, and he was really the only entrepreneur that I was aware of.
Well, it sounds like your grandparents played a big role in your life, and you kind of brought up a couple times your grandmother, your grandfather, and so they must have been very, very special to you, and they sound like they were wonderful people, and I know you hold them close to your heart even to this day. Um, but can you also recall when you were growing up what lessons you learned about money and finance?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of work around this really because for me, my family and my with my parents, it was definitely that honestly it had to be hard or that you had to work really, really hard. You could never get ahead as if there was a limited amount of money and as it was, if it was finite. And so there was actually a lot of arguments and a lot of embarrassment. I think in some ways I was a little bit angry with money. And so it took me a while to work through some of those things. And I definitely continue to, like you spoke of earlier, peeling the layer of an onion. I think that some of these limiting beliefs and feelings that we have about things start from a very early age and we continue to have to work through them. I feel like for me, a drive was that I was a single mom. I think that there was a sense that for me, my daughter, I feel like helped me heal a lot of that because to me, there was no choice. I wanted to give her experiences. I wanted her to have things that, made her feel good. I wanted her to be able to go to school with nice clothes so she felt great. And so, in some ways, I feel like the hardships that I experienced helped me want to give her a better life and to realize that, it was all on me. I was self employed. I never did get married. And so it was always up to me to make sure that I provided for her. And I think that she was really a driving force for me to do whatever I needed to do to become the person I needed to become to provide for her.
Wow, that's great. And often when we do grow up as adults and we have children and we kind of reflect back on our childhood and we're like, oh, I think I would do something a little bit different with this and that. And then with our own children, we always, try to do better. And I certainly try. I have a 3-year-old, so I'm not quite there yet, but I try to instill some good hard work values. I have them take stuff to the trash and just help out with little chores early on, and so it's always fun. But thinking kind of maybe to a recent experience where you've been really stressed mentally, can you share with the listeners an example of a recent stressful situation? And how did you cope with it mentally?
Let's see that one of the bigger recent would be within the last 2 years be recent enough.
Sure.
Well, I remember one of my biggest, when I really, really got moving into doing this online world, I realized that one of my lifelong fears was public speaking. Yet every time I looked at what I would be doing, it had to do with writing and speaking and traveling. And, so this is like, I don't know, like that's in the future. I kept just kind of pushing it off and doing what felt, still stretching my comfort zone, but we always hit our edges, right? And so
Hmm.
I went to a conference and I didn't have any. Uh, Sales training. It's not in my nature. I don't ever want to push anybody. I don't want to be looked at as salesy. So I found a work, a networking or not networking, an event that was teaching client attraction, heart centered sales. And I'm like, okay, I need this. So I go there, and by the end of the event, it was amazing, transformational, lots of great business learning and networking. And at the end, they're talking about speaker training. And I'm thinking, what speaker training? How do we go from sales to speaker training? And I just felt my whole body get triggered. How I would say it was just like, this is where I'm hitting a massive comfort zone stretch. And in my mind I'm thinking, oh no, I think that I want to do this, but then all this fear around actually A, spending the money, and then B, signing on to pay for my big for basically moving through my biggest fear. And so I had to go outside and literally walk myself through a little thing that I do with my clients, and I can share briefly with your callers today as
Yeah.
well, called the TLC body meditation. Okay. I like the acronym because I'm all about balance and self care in your
Hmm.
business. So
Sure.
the T stands for, so I went outside and I was like, okay, am I triggered because is this really what I want to do? And so I put my feet flat on the ground and I just went outside. For me, nature is always very, getting out of the busyness of 300 people in the room trying to make the same decision was going to be a good call. So I went outside, took a deep breath, and kind of just focused on my body. And so T stands for talk to your body. So I talked to my body. I'm like, okay, what are you feeling? And how could I be more in balance? So I started kind of inquiring and just focusing on my physical body and my breath. And when I did that, it starts to slow down all the stress reactions, right? It starts to slow down the thoughts that are going a million miles an hour that were making it hard for me to know my right decision. And so I talked to my body and asked, how can I bring it, be more peace? And then I listened. I listened to the response. And so for me, it just was being outside and breathing deeply. And then I asked about, what was going to be, is this in alignment? Is this what I want to do? And I could quiet the stress enough down to where I could hear that this was going to be the right step, and that really what I was feeling was just fear of the unknown and fear of how I was going to pay for it.
Right.
And so then the C stands for commitment and committing to your body. So that's how I oftentimes walk myself through stressful things, is by first just stepping out, closing my eyes, focus on the body, talk, listen, and commit to whatever comes to you in that moment. And I ended up investing in a $22,000 business program, and I'm thinking I
Wow.
didn't even have my mortgage payment in the bank, and I ended up somehow being able to make it happen, $1,000 payments for 22 months. And if I would have listened to logic, if I would have listened to fear, if I didn't believe in myself or wasn't willing to take it on, I would have turned down what really turned out to be a huge catalyst for my business growth.
Hmm.
So that was just something I wanted to share, because it's not always easy.
Wow, that's an amazing technique and a great story.
And I definitely started out with small steps. So only because I cultivated that level of trust in myself and communicating with my body, I think, was I able to make such a large investment based purely off of how I felt, not what I was thinking. But that's the power of that. And you just start with that in your daily life, making smaller decisions. And really tuning into what your body's needs are in that moment. And it's amazing how you'll start to connect with knowing what your needs actually are. And that's a huge, it's a very big, powerful tool to use.
For sure, that is excellent, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of change and the impact of that's had on your clients. What do you think has been the one of the most fulfilling moments of your professional journey to this point?
Well, aside from always just, I think one of the best things is just watching my clients have breakthroughs and ahas and really transform into becoming the powerful leaders of their own life and business. Of course, that's like what I do for.
Hmm.
But in terms of one professional moment that I can think of, last summer actually, I stepped it up in terms of a speaking engagement. Was invited to speak on a stage with other 6 and 7 figure business owners. There was lots of my mentors in the room. And again, I've been working through speaking as one of my comfort zone stretches, and this was stretching that to the next level.
Hmm.
And it was really such an amazing experience. I connected on the stage and stood there and shared the the whole story in my talk from a very vulnerable place. And I remember standing there at the dark night of my soul moment of my story, and I was starting to get choked up. And I leaned in, and I can look out the audience, and I'm just watching them all lean in with their eyes tearing as my eyes were tearing, and just be able to, in that moment, go, wow, I feel so amazing to be able to share so vulnerably and also to be so well received, and how powerful this is. And I continued the talk through, all of the waves of emotion and laughter and ahas. And I got lots of compliments and people thanking me for sharing that way, because it really affected them and they could relate, and it gave them a lot of inspiration. And so I just loved that, because it was really the first time speaking from that space of riding that emotional wave with people and being received for what I would maybe deem as something I would have judged myself in the past as being a shameful experience. And so, yeah, in that moment, I was like, this is so different. I love teaching, webinars and
Hmm.
content, but this was an entirely different experience that I'm like, wow, I made for this, and I'm good at this, and I'm going to enjoy this. And I see that the audience enjoys it as well. That was powerful.
Well, it was. I'm sure it was almost like a high that you received. I mean, and it also sounds as if you really connected with the audience. And I think for people who are listening, if you haven't been there, it's maybe hard to describe. But but having that audience and making yourself vulnerable, and then them kind of joining you, and you can see they're right there with you, and you lock eyes, and they're just waiting. They're just hanging on to every word that you have. Yeah, that must have been an amazing feeling for you, Jen.
Yeah, it was, and I was proud of myself because honestly, when I first said yes to it, my little voices in my head said, "How can you get out of this? You can't do this. What? How am I?" It's like you start that. And it's like, you know what?
Right.
Buckle down, get it. And I hired, buckle down, and I really committed, and I was proud of myself for sticking through that because that was just a huge comfort zone stretch for me, and I felt really, really good.
Wow. Well, I can tell you're a fantastic speaker now, and we've kind of come to the end of the show, and it has been a pleasure having you. But before we go, Jen, I want you to be able to share with the listeners how they can find you online, your website. How can they connect with you?
Oh, yes. My website is soulsuccessunleashed.com. Soulsuccessunleashed.com. And I have my 7 Secrets to Soul Success free gift on there. There's also a lot of pages about me and programs I offer. I'm just launching middle of March of 2017 the Manifesting Miracles and Money 3-month program. It's a group program, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited about that. And online, I would love to connect with you on Facebook. I have a really powerful group called Soul Success Circle with Jen Gilchrist. And I do lots of free content and Facebook Lives and trainings within the group. And it's just a beautiful community of women who are there to support one another and really create lives and businesses that are in alignment with who they are at soul level and really expressing their gifts in the world. So it's just really a powerful community of support and celebration and learning.
That is excellent. Well, thank you very much, Jen. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I will definitely stay in touch, and I look forward to following you on your journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlascos.com.